moya oyingcwele Pindu kulume nkosi yam Pindu kulume tikondi mamele Pindu kulume nkosi yam Hi, this is Patrick Duncan, and you are watching Breakfast Daily on City TV.
Okay, welcome back to Breakfast Daily. It's time for news review segment for today. Remember, Facebook is Breakfast Daily, and the WhatsApp line
0550-585-832.
Now we're going straight to our stories. Some of the stories making the headlines or finding their way on the various front pages out there, starting with the Daily Graphic this morning. It says, disaster at Accra Mall. 3 injured, property damage. So page 3 of the Daily Graphic will have that full report. Also, Speaker advocates West Africa Electoral Commission. There's a beautiful picture here of Professor Mike Aaron-Okwe, who is the Speaker of Parliament in Ghana, and the full story is on page 16. Now, straight to the Ghanaian Times.
Yes, the Ghanaian Times says here, new school projects banned. No measles death in Ghana for 15 years. That's amazing.
That's good.
I think we should be celebrating these achievements. I mean, 15 years. I used to remember when I was a kid, getting the measles shot was a big deal. No, I didn't have measles. I think we all had to get the shots. That's why we have the scars on our right. You know, not everybody has that scar. Do you know that? Like, it's just people from, like, developing countries who have that scar on their right.
Okay. Even people from developing countries, not everyone.
Do you have one?
Yes, I do. I do.
Why is yours so big? Okay, mine is smaller. Maybe it was in your days, they hadn't developed the smaller ones. Presidents to address 2018 Francophone Summit today in Armenia. That story is on page 17, and I wonder how many people he's gone there with if the vice president is traveling with 20 people. Anyway.
Now we'll go on to the Daily Heritage. It says here, fair wages staff declare strike over bad wages. Now that's, it's sad and hilarious at the same time. So it's sadly hilarious. Perfect oxymoron for this particular story. Anidoho makes waves in NDC race. Also 160 now on death row. 65-year-old asthmatic patient also waiting to be killed. Page 2 has that particular story.
That's sad. You were talking about death row yesterday.
Yes, but we don't know the crime he committed, so we can't decide to be sad or
I'm
not
looking
about
at the
this
number
particular
of people.
thing. Yeah, 160 now on death row.
And Godfrey saying that when you are on death row, every day you wake up, you're thinking, I'm going to die today, I'm going to die today.
Oh, well,
I don't know if you give them like a 1 week notice or something.
Nobody's going to sign on this, so let's just let it slide. Now, Anas number 12 suit. Court throws out Kennedy Japan, and finally, ordination is not fanfare but work of God. Bishop Takia Boy has this to say.
Let's take a look at the New Crusading Guide. The New Crusading Guide says, round 1, Kennedy Japan down as court declines his application to dismiss Anas's case. That story is on pages 3 and 10 of the New Crusading Guide. We did not divert Pwalugu Dam money that's coming from the former president, Mahama, and Backbin will win massively, NDC branch executives.
Okay, now take a look at the Independent. The Independent newspaper says, banking crisis. I don't blame customers for the panic withdrawals. And the Independent, of course, has this to say in page paper. Also, ice importation coming from the former president of the Independent.
Okay, now let's take a look at the Gold Street business. The Gold Street business says that expect more crisis. Operators SNL's cautioned. That's business. Tensed over CTN policy implementation. That story is on page 4 of the Gold Street Business.
Now let's take a look at the Business and Financial Times. It says here that the scrap metal industry, and there's a full story on the scrap metal industry. A multi-billion-dollar business left for the average Joe. Page 2 has that report. Also, Turkey urges Africa to trade in local currencies. And finally, WTO 6 others partner to boost trade finance. So that's what we have on the front page of the Business and Financial Times.
Okay, now let's take a look at the Daily Statesman. The Daily Statesman says here, GHIE delegation attends a 2018 ASCE convention. That story is on page 7. Mahama owns up to Botre report. That story is on page 2. Sideline celebrities and choppies, and we still import rice. It's sad.
Anyway, it's important the call to tell us about it.
It's a healthy grain that people pay premium for outside of Africa, and we have it in abundance, and we don't even use them. I'll cook some for you next week.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The Finder says children at risk due to upsurge in sugary snacks. Dietitian warns. Wow. Wow. Oh, I guess it's very, very bad. He donates items to 3 institutions. Page 8 of the Finder has that story this morning. Also, President Kufuor calls for end to rice imports. It seems like a big deal. And finally,
it is a big deal.
299,600 on the verge.
Okay, now let's take a look at the Chronicle. The Chronicle says 403 booze men go mad between January and June this year. Mental health service worried about excessive use of alcohol and weed.
If they booze man, doesn't give it the booze man.
It's booze man.
Booze man. Yeah.
I think it's booze man.
It will be there.
It's booze man. Okay.
Yeah.
Booze man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need to be careful. I mean, no matter how hard life is, you shouldn't also throw your life away, right? You should find healthier ways, and it comes back to all this mental health conversations we've been having. We're only 26 psychiatrists in this whole of Ghana. Like, how can we survive? Legon whines over 30 million Ghana city budget summit today.
Okay.
And Kufni summit today.
Now let's take a look at some online for Pwalugu Dam projects. This is coming from the former President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama. And of course, Upper West MPP Treasurer slams Baumia over reckless spending. Wow. Interesting. Well, citynewsroom.com has that report as well. Confusion in Yellow Krobo over installation of chief. And finally but one, Samira competing with her husband wants 20 people for WHO confab. This coming from former Deputy Education Minister Samuel Kujato Blackwell. And finally, 2016 polls, we didn't have enough money. NDC Election Directorate put out this report. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so we'll just introduce our guest for today so we can just move on. But remember, the hashtag is still Breakfast Daily on all social media platforms with the WhatsApp line
0550-585-832. Let us hear from you on all the topics that we'll be discussing. The number again is 0550-585-832.
Now we are joined by
in the room with us.
Yes, we are joined by Nana Fredua. He's an MPP communications team member. Good morning, Nana. Welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Oh, thank you. The full name is Nana Fredua Oforiatta.
Nana Fredua Oforiatta.
Yes,
thank
Nana
you.
Fredua Oforiatta.
And we've also been joined by Al Hassan Suhini. He's a member of Parliament for Tamale North. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Thank you. Good morning.
Fantastic. Good morning to you too.
Yes, so we'll delve into the first story. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com. It says, Samira competing with her husband wants 20 people for the WHO confab. That's coming from Honorable Ablakwa. And it says the wife of the Vice President, Samira Baumia, has also come under fire over the number of people she intends to take along to Switzerland for a World Health Organization conference slated for October. So according to Mr. Ablakwa, the list of names of people in her office submitted to the Foreign Affairs Ministry shows that she plans to travel with some 20 people to the conference. So this is at the backdrop of what happened with the vice president.
Well, there's been an update. Yeah, there's been an update to that story. I'm reading from page 5, I think, of page 5, yes, of the Herald this morning. It says the government has generated another visa request letter to kill the controversy surrounding the second lady Samira Bawumia's bloated delegation to the first ever WHO Global Conference on Air Pollution and Health in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, the letter dated October 8 says that 5 people are to accompany the second October 29 to November 2. And the new letter has the same signature as the earlier one dated October 10. Interesting. Very, very interesting. And the story goes on to say that, interestingly, although the event is about health, representatives is part of the delegation to the WHO program, raising questions about its benefit to the country, especially in these hard times, as said by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So the 5 that were named are Emmanuel Kwame Chum, Projects Coordinator; Zila Amsat Osman, Aide; Kwame Ofori-Danso, Press Secretary; Joyreen Adubia Jewu, ADC; and Nasiru Salifu, Security. So these are the names mentioned to accompany the First Lady to a World Health Organization conference on air pollution and health. But
people are still sticking by it that she was going to take 20 people. And let me just quote Honorable Ablakwa here. He says, despite Hajia Samira's invitation to participate in the just 2 programs, a panel debate on clean household energy access on 31st October at 11:30 to 1 o'clock at the plenary session on an air plenary session on the 1st of November from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. She appears, like her husband, to ensure that the Ghanaian taxpayer pays dearly, even at a time their boss and our president has admitted that all is not well with the Ghanaian economy, and indeed, times are hard. We'll start with you, Nana. What exactly is going on? Because on the one hand, we're saying times are hard, but we're not in a crisis. We'll pull through. On the other hand, we're hearing that our leaders are traveling with an entourage that really they shouldn't be traveling with.
And the reality is that...
okay, you can say good morning.
Where there should be true progressive thinking and real activism. Somebody says it's 20. Those who are being accused say it's 5, and they produce documents to show. I'm asking, the rest of us should even want to find out before we go public. How true is it that it's 20 or 5? So, and are we going to get ourselves caught up in he says, she says? Are we just going to sit back and just go from left to right, listen to this, listen to that, or we're going to just stick with facts and move on? So for me, it's the same. I mean, it's a response has come. That's that. What I appreciate, and I think is fine, is that it's, first of all, it's interesting that now the NDC are becoming a principal party, and so they can now discuss things that they believe are matters of principle. That's good. That's the direction we should be taking. They should hasten slowly, because it doesn't happen overnight. You don't just suddenly turn your character. You learn it and earn it so that people now listen closely and pay attention. So that's one. They're learning that. 2, it is important that we keep our government on its toes. Any government, and for me, this government in particular, because I'd like to see us achieve. And if we're going to achieve, if we appear in any way to go off track, we should be brought back on track. So for me, I don't have a problem with looking into things and asking questions. That I don't have a problem with. I think it's good. Besides, if the money is not your money, personal money, it's government, state money, the people have a right to ask questions. And in this case, the representatives of the people have a right to ask questions. It's just that we hope that the motives that they use in pushing that agenda are true people-oriented motives and not selfish or trying to find a space kind of motive, that one they'll be exposed. So for me, it's the truth that matters.
Okay.
Well, if we're even to go by this truth being said, this is a health conference, more or less. Would you not, in the least, hope that we would have someone from the health services at least involved in this?
We need to ask that question, because notice that this was an invitation to the second lady. So maybe apart from the second lady, other invitations have gone elsewhere. And the highlight has been put on her because purportedly this was supposed to have happened. Otherwise, we really wouldn't have heard all of this. We would have just heard that she was going. So maybe we need to ask that question. Maybe there are other people
because
who are not on her delegation, who are normally assigned to these types of things.
Because then it raises the bigger question of the selection process or the choice of people that we choose to take to these particular events.
Right.
Then it raises the question of the list of the vice president or those who accompany the vice president to the UN conference. It raises a lot of questions. Who are we taking to these conferences? What exactly are their uses or their benefits to the country in general? Jiva?
And speaking of the vice president, and this was at the UN conference on trade, Deputy Minister of Trade was already going to go, but I understand that the Vice President also had a special invitation. You look at countries like India. India took just one person, Nigeria, one person. I think China had just 5 people. And Ghana, about 20 people were listed. I mean, we've heard that there were 16. But do we really need 16 people on these trips as a country that is experiencing hardship?
Yeah, the question is, who are the 16 people?
Yeah,
so
and I mentioned, I mentioned that Honorable Carlos Ahenkwa was to go, but the other people, a lot of people from the Office of the Vice President, Economic Advisor, Mr. Joe Amwakutufo, Advisor, Office of the Vice President, Secretary to the Vice President, Aide de Camp to the Vice President, Director of Communication. It's like the entire office just up and went on the trip.
The valet,
and it wasn't even a top vice presidency. It was on trade. So really, did we need this many people?
Well, I mean, if you want to rationalize all of that, we could probably push it to it and say he's the head of the economic team, right? And the trade falls right in that category. But for me, it's about finding out, because there must be a reason. And if we find out and the reason is not acceptable, that's right. But just ridiculing for ridicule's sake because we think it's a big number, we should ask the question.
As compared to the rest.
The first prompter is the fact that relatively it's a big number. Okay, so now let's find out why that big number.
Yeah,
and
especially
then
when
we can push it, because the names that you've mentioned, what's wrong with them going?
The valet included?
I'm saying, what's wrong with them going?
I think the question is when you have countries like Iraq.
Who did India take?
India took the first secretary, permanent mission, Geneva, Mr. Sadri Alam. So are you saying because he's the vice president, we need this many people to accompany him?
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Oh, well.
I don't think so. I think as a developing country,
we should have gone alone.
No, he could have gone with at least 2-3 people.
Abu Jinapor did say, in trying to make a comparison, he tried to make a comparison between the vice president going to this particular event, UN, So you have the likes of Okudeta Black, I would say, you know what? These are two different things. You're comparing apples and oranges. Anyway, thank you for joining us on Breakfast Daily. What's your take on this particular one? Samira Baumia
competing with her husband,
according to some reports, yeah.
There seems to be a lot of contest in this country. I read a joke on social media too that it seems the dollar and fuel price is competing with Dr. Baumia's age. But that's just an aside. Let me say good morning once again to our viewers, and then send my heartfelt condolences to the family of Mr. Bebaku Mensah. He lost his wife, and he was former secretary to President Mills. And the funeral is today, and I will wish to convey my heartfelt condolences. May the good Lord grant them the serenity of mind to accept the loss. And on the issue of the competition between husband and wife, in terms of who is suggested to be dissipating public funds more as far as the delegation size on their trips is concerned, can be zeroed down to dishonesty that I have consistently spoken about in relation to the way this government operates and deals with us. You know, the dishonesty is in the fact that you have a government that, for example, says, because we are so concerned about the public purse, we are banning travels. And then it turns out that there's no such ban after all. And in fact, travels have rather, in some cases, increased, and delegation sizes have increased.
But the ban was on ministers, if I'm
government officials.
In general.
And the vice president, the wife, and the people that they travel with are government officials.
Okay.
And in fact, yesterday I heard one of the chief of staff say that the ban have been suspended without even coming back to us again. They told us publicly that they had put a ban. They didn't tell us about when they lifted the ban until we started raising questions. Our foreign ranking on foreign affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, started raising questions. So that is the dishonesty. Then you also have
but
the ban.
Even when the ban was imposed, there was a bit of a caveat that, you know, apart from the foreign minister who did not have that ban imposed on her, you can still seek permission from the chief of staff, and you can still travel as a minister.
I'm talking about what the ban was supposed to achieve. It was to save us some money. So when it turns out that it is not even really being adhered to, there's some level of dishonesty there. Then again, there was a ban, supposed to be a ban on the purchase of brand new vehicles.
Yeah.
It turned out that it's also another lie or propaganda or just talk, because ministries, departments, agencies are buying vehicles left, right, center. They are advertising even in the papers, you know, and they are buying. So what was the point in deceiving the people of Ghana? Because you are so concerned about the public purse, these are the measures you are taking to ensure that you save the taxpayer the contribution that he's making to, you know, national development. So when you look at all of it, the lists and the justifications that are coming from government people become so nauseating. Because who are you fooling? So that is why we are even having this discussion in the first place. I mean, like you have rightly stated, in the case of UNCTAD, you had some countries that you can say are even richer than Ghana, just using their missions in Geneva. They didn't even have to fly people from their country.
Well, their vice president was not invited as well.
Well, again, I mean, that is just coming from government. Have we verified if indeed he was invited as a special guest of honor?
Because even
the
if
fact that government says it does not make it fact.
Because even if he was invited as special guest, he couldn't have been the only special guest invited.
Sometimes you can have, you know, those kind of, you know, invitations where maybe ministers are meeting, they decide to invite one president or vice president to be the guest of honor.
So
it happens. But you see, I am saying that the fact that government says it is the case is not fact until we verify.
Okay.
I'm not saying it is also wrong, but it could be just another, you know, ploy to deceive.
But would that be justification enough if he was invited as the only special guest, hence having the hugest number?
Even if he was invited, considering the pretense that they have portrayed about the need to save the public purse, you will not expect a size such as the one that he went with.
But what if the topic at hand, since we are talking about trade and development, and as Nana said, he's in charge of our economy, so they needed to learn a lot from it to
go
implement.
With 4 economic advisors.
But perhaps they're gaining a lot of
we
knowledge.
are told he is an economic wizard. So even if he needs advisors on just one conference, did he have to go with 4? Did he have to go with the deputy foreign affairs minister when the deputy trade minister was there? Because this had to do with trade. And you have a mission in Geneva. So what was the use of a deputy foreign affairs minister? Then you had a valet I mean, for what purposes?
Okay.
So I mean, I'm saying that you even if he was invited as special guest of honor, look, let us be very honest in this country.
Before you go on with or addressing the issue of the list for people on that particular list, in respect of Samira Baume's list, yes. So we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with the news review. Remember to keep your messages coming in with the hashtag Breakfast Daily on all social media platforms, and of course the WhatsApp line
0550-585-832. We'll be right back.
City TV is live. City TV is a free-to-air digital channel. On a digital TV, please press menu on your remote control and run a news search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like GoTV and StarTimes box. Tune into City TV and experience your world. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. Now, before the break, we were discussing Honorable Ablakwa saying that a second lady is competing with her husband as far as the delegation they travel with, and you were making some closing remark.
So I was just urging that, sometimes we all try to be thorough in these discussions and honest as well. If you look at the first letter that came up, the only difference between that and the second one is the date and maybe the names. Unfortunately for us, the first letter that came out was not a photocopy.
I'm not sure I understand.
It was not a photocopy.
Yeah.
It was actually, the original that maybe somebody took a picture of. So you can see that the signature on that letter was in blue pen. And it is the same blue pen signature on the second letter. If it was photocopied, you could see maybe it was cropped and computer thing, engineering. This is a pen signature.
We have signature experts. There are people who can forge signatures.
So somebody knew about this letter that was written on the 8th. Because the second letter says that it was written on the 8th. But the number. That is honest.
So that's all we want.
That is honest. Instead of trying to play hanky-panky and insult us by, first of all, putting a fake stamp on the letter, and the original letter, and started circulating. When that didn't work, then you now come back with another letter that has the same reference number. The same reference number as the so-called fake letter. Same reference number. So how did the person who forged the letter, if there was no letter, know that the reference will be this, of the original will be this?
Okay.
Please. And the forge came before the original. How? Let's just be sincere that, look, you have listened to the people of Ghana, you think that their concerns are genuine, and you have reduced the number to 5 or 6.
So you feel the information minister, the deputy information minister is lying to us?
He's engaged in misinformation.
Interesting.
Or disinformation.
Okay. Now your closing response, and we move on to the next topic.
Yeah, like I said, it's a straw-grabbing thing. And I don't know why we want to be caught up in a he said, she said generated by the NDC. When the facts are put on the table, then we use those facts. Is Dr. Baumia the vice president of this country?
Yes.
Is he the same? The Indian prime minister was going to that event.
I was thinking...
Would he or she,
Okay.
I don't know who the person is.
We're moving on to another story, but I was thinking you would respond to the point he made that the fake letter apparently came before the
Okay, I don't know
good
anything
letter.
about those letters, so I wouldn't even attempt to.
Fantastic.
But for me, what is important?
So
let me finish. Let me finish.
Please,
He made all
please
these
really
things,
wrap up
and you
really
are caught
briefly.
up in wanting to accept the 20, and I don't understand that, because the fact is that the office that manages it has issued a statement, and it says they have. You said 6. No, you said the information.
Including her would be 6.
6.
Yes.
6 people. So why are we caught up trying to allow and accept the 20 that somebody wants us to believe?
Okay. Fantastic.
I mean, it's a matter of fact.
Okay.
Period.
Now we'll move on
you
to
see-
another
Let's
story.
move on.
No,
Yeah,
we
we'll
have
move
to
on,
move
but
on
just
to another
1 minute. You
story.
see, the matter of fact is not determined by what government says.
Fantastic.
But they are
Good
our
point.
information ministry, right? It's come from the
It-
deputy
that-
information
we have
minister.
had history.
Nobody has asked
It's
him
their
or
interest. Okay,
Honorable
thank you.
Aflakwa to show where they got the
They are
20
facts.
from.
That's
Okay,
true.
now let's
Nobody's
move on
asked-
with
it's
that
not
particular
facts, it's
one.
not to work with that. I don't understand that.
No, we did not divert Pwalugu Dam money that's coming from the former president, John Dramani Mahama. He's saying that the money, so he says the NDC government started the design and was working with the World Bank while trying to get the African Development Bank on board before they left office. And then 50 megawatts power, the over $400 million was not looking very feasible project, but should be in the area where the dam was going to be located so that it will benefit the people. So there was no such thing as diversion of Pwalugu Dam. Should we start with Honorable Suhini?
Well, first of all, diversion is a crime. If you divert funds, it's criminal in this country, because we have laws governing the approval and utilization of funds. And if you sidestep those laws, then it amounts to diversion and you can be charged. So I agree with Nana that sometimes we should help our politicians to stop playing politics with us. If they know of any diversion of funds, they don't need political platforms to ring it into our ears. They know what the law tells them to do. They just should do it. And we will see it for ourselves. But what the truth is what the former president have put out. There was, you know, an engagement through SADA, you know, to construct the Pwalugu Dam. And the engagements between World Bank and the AFDB started. But it did not reach the point where an agreement was signed and maybe passed by Parliament for funds to be released, for it to even be diverted. But you all recall that during the floods, when the Vice President went to donate those expired food items to the victims, he made that political point that but for the diversion of some funds, the dam would have been constructed by now, and maybe it would have ameliorated the flood and the plight of the people. Clearly, the facts on the ground can't support that. What actually we think, and that is why I'm sure the former president is giving additional information, he is referring to is indeed another fund that was for another purpose. The OT something dam from the Brazilians. And when the feasibility studies showed that the funds was inadequate to do that dam, which would have benefited, you know, the northern Volta. And parts of the northern region, government negotiated with them instead of returning the funds to utilize it for the benefit of the people who would have even been the beneficiaries of that dam. And that is how come we had the northern section of the eastern corridor, you know, road being done. That is the funds. And it went back to Parliament Parliament of Ghana, made up of both NDC and NPP, varied the terms and allowed government to utilize that fund.
So, Honorable, this statement was made, I think, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. I'm going to read it. It says, under the Mills Mahama administration, Parliament in 2008 contracted a loan of 525 million from the Brazilian government to construct the Pwalugu multipurpose dam and the Douala Dam in the Upper East and Northern region, respectively. But although the money was said to have been received in 2009, government abandoned the projects and diverted the funds into the construction of the Eastern Corridor Road. Why are we learning about this 2-3 weeks in the making?
So this was the accusation. You just read the accusation. And so this is the response that, look, no money was diverted. Yes, I mean, under President Mills, they started those discussions. But it did not reach a point where funds were released. So that's why we are saying that. That's why he's explaining that when he took over as president, the fund that finally came, government changed the terms that government could now use that funds for the Eastern Corridor roads and other projects on that, section of.
That was for the same amount of money, 528 million. It was not even used for the Eastern Corridor road at all.
No, it was. What I'm saying is that an area based on agreements between government of Ghana and Brazil, approved by a parliament.
But shouldn't the dam have been a priority?
It's not diversion. First of all, the money was not for the Pwalugu Dam.
Okay.
It was for a dam in the OT area.
In the OT area. Okay. Now, the Pwalugu Dam project had discussions on it had started through SADA with the World Bank and
the question I'm asking you is, was it the same amount of money? You said the money was not meant for the Pwalugu Dam, it was meant for a dam in the OT area. Was it the same amount of money that was meant for the dam in the OT area?
I don't think it was 500 and something. I will have to check the figures.
Because
I don't think it was
the former president is saying is 400 million, but what we had was 520 million.
So that money, part of it was released.
Right.
And it was used for the Eastern Corridor.
Part of the Eastern Corridor.
Part of the Eastern Corridor. And
so you
other
agree with that part of the statement?
In the area.
Okay.
Fantastic.
I think that the Honourable Member of Parliament would probably want a few more minutes to explain a little bit, because it's getting mangled more. The information is getting mangled more. Was there ever, if there was, what happened? That's what we need to know. Now, the rationale, you move even, assuming that there was never, if it's true, that there was never anything for Pwalugu as far as that particular comment is concerned, and it went to OT. And then you divert it, and I'm using the word divert, you divert it to
the Eastern
with the approval of Parliament,
Corridor.
according to him.
That's not
Now,
diversion.
here are the political issues that we must ask ourselves. Do we remember SADA, that famous institution that gave visas to Guinea fowls to travel abroad? Do you remember?
That's a bit of a stretch.
Of course it is. That's the point. The point is that that's how. That's,
it doesn't matter. If
no, I'm saying is that not what
the truth
is that not what the question was? That exactly what was SADA about? That's the point. The point is not to say that the Guinea fowls went to an embassy and got stamped. They don't. I mean, come on. The reality is that there were questions about how SADA. Those things. Therefore, if Pwalugu was proposed in SADA, then SADA itself had questions under the administration of the NDC. I haven't been told by anybody who's seen it that it's there. All of that was questions. And for me, I go back to the initial point that I made. We need clarity on all of these things. We need clarity on all of these things. Because when we proposed that we're going to put dams across, particularly in the northern part of this country, there was ridicule about it. And in the struggle to find ridicule, suddenly the response was that, oh, but we ourselves were already putting up dams. Now they're telling us that it was never there in Pwalugu, for example. What are we saying? We try to even ridicule the whole policy principle that up in the northern sector of this country, the potential to use dams as a form of managing our agriculture economy was, and even our energy economy was there. And so there's a policy that's going to look at this when a party comes into office. It was ridiculed. Then the next thing is, in order to find their feet, because they realized that the ridiculing was not going to work, then they're now saying, oh, but we're also doing it. Now it turns out you're saying that, no, you didn't even do 2 places. So first it was Pwalugu, then that one too. You said, no, it didn't even happen there. It went to SADA. Questionable credibility issues on SADA. Then you say it was going to OT, and then OT too, you logged it because of one reason or the other, which, for me, just going by the information, it raises questions. So, but Mr. Mahama.
But you see, the information provided by the former president, these are verifiable information. I mean, he's made reference to Parliament, that Parliament approved this money. So going by that account, diversion anymore, or at least, even if we are going to use the word diversion, it's a legal or authorized diversion by the Parliament of the land.
I'm glad you've clarified my point. The next thing is this. Yes, it's true. The next thing is this. Mr. Mahama, he's welcome to the campaign trail. He's going to continue to have to account to us on his stewardship, because it is his stewardship that got him sacked from office. He was sacked because he sought the office again and the people refused him. So he will continue to account to us on these matters, because there are huge questions about his stewardship. He's now telling us that he's going to do what he had the opportunity to do, because he's seen that somebody else is doing it. So now he thinks he can do it. Hey, we're waiting.
Anyway, so we'll just move on to our next story for today.
If you could, he said that there's a few questions, and in the process, he only ended up setting his own questions and answering them. And I think that is important that...
But I thought
you were going to raise the questions, but you didn't raise the questions.
You said I set my questions.
Yes, you just set your own questions and then...
And yet you said I didn't set them.
You see, there seemed to be, some obsession to do propaganda, bastardize institutions and agencies in these countries, especially if President Mahama had anything to do with those. Anybody who is in development management and in falls that it experienced. For example, in the tree plantation, a university, no less university than the UDS, have done a research on it and showed that 80% of the, in fact, more than 80% of the trees that were planted survived. But in the propaganda machinery of the NPP, it was a failure and trees were not even planted. And they continue to harp on that. Just bastardize SADA because Mahama had something to do with it. Then he talks about, a fraud that no one, he has. Mr. Osofo-Maafo, for God's sake, during the transition, came out, addressed the media, and said the fraud was actually part of the presidential pool. And nobody took it home because it was actually a gift to Ghana and not a bribe to President Mahama. If it was a bribe to President Mahama, probably he would have given it to me or to somebody to use personally. But it was actually a gift to Ghana. Like just like President.
We are not here to discuss the...
Let's move on.
We talked about dams, if you would just permit.
Okay, just
I don't know
minute.
if you have seen. I've seen one dug out. I mean, those were the purpose.
Now, so we have received messages from you guys. I read the first one from Patrick. Nana Akufo-Addo have caused a huge disappointment. Have caused a huge disappointment to the teeming Ghanaian youth in unemployment, especially hospitals, clinic, health centers, CHIPS compounds, and zone built under the erstwhile government are now...
I think generally he's talking about him being disappointed in the NPP because of unemployment issues and hospitals, amongst others. So let's move on to that.
Okay. Go ahead. Michael is also saying, good morning, Jifa, and the suffering that Ghanaians went through under his 8-year leadership of bad governance of Craig Lupin-Share is still fresh in the minds of Ghanaians, and if Ghanaians themselves will mistake that and give power back to him, then we get where he's going with that.
So this one is NPP propaganda.
Did you notice the flow?
Oh, please. Abele from Nungwa says, those who are telling JDM to come back are Marxists.
So that's what you're doing on your
now
phone.
The NPP has turned itself to Ghana Black Stars. How can you attend forums with such huge numbers? So they're saying NPP is becoming Black Stars. And Ike from Kaswa says, I'm very disappointed in NPP. I'm very disappointed in the NPP government because they pretend to be the savior of Ghana. Meanwhile, they live lavishly at the expense of the citizens. They promised jobs, factories, dams, and development, but they haven't achieved any of this. All they do is lie. That's coming from Ike from Kaswa. That's a bit hard.
Now let's go straight to our next story.
Yes, our final
we
story.
are just touching on this story, so let's not go
Which
to
actually answers Ike. But go ahead.
Okay. New school projects banned.
Yes. So the Accra Regional Minister Ishmael Ashite made this disclosure yesterday. He says that there are about 220 schools at different levels of completion started by the previous government that have not been completed. Why should we go and start new ones when we have not completed these ones? So I have directed the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies to go back and make sure that all those schools are completed before we start new ones.
Okay.
Start with Nana. Do we agree? And I think this should go for all projects.
So we are just touching on this
in that
story.
I said that this particular story answers Ike, who was the last texter you read. In that story, apart from this decision by the regional minister, he also highlights other projects that are being taken care of, including the dugouts that the Honourable wants to refer to. If the dugouts are feeding farms, thank God for dugouts. The point is that they're being done. Now, the specific matter of finishing them, that's not the essence of a proper democracy and good governance. So as for me, as far as I'm concerned, it's a great decision. 220 schools. I was actually watching out for whether they were primary schools, nursery schools, you know what I'm saying, JHS or JSS, is it JHS and SHS schools, or even tertiary institutions. It would be great to get the details of that, because we know the effect of that on one famous topic that certain people don't like to talk about, like double track. You know, double track. That very famous.
Okay, Nana, I think we will end it there.
So I'm saying that those details will let us know how quickly, for example, in particular schools, especially the SHS schools, double track will end, because we know that and in some of those schools it will end when their facilities are ready, so they will immediately move in. So kudos to government. Kudos to government.
Okay.
And besides, you know those contracts.
No, we will end by
NDC people. So the NDC people will be smiling, but they're Ghanaians.
I one other thing I admire about them, even when they are failing, because I get so surprised that Nana will think that some people will not like to talk about free SHS. Really? Why will they feel comfortable discussing it and we wouldn't like to talk about it? I mean, and talking about projects, I think that let's comment the continuation of projects.
Exactly. So it will be a back and forth.
Even when Rollins, you know, but let me even say it from 2001.
Please end on that point.
But the point has to be made that when these projects are started by a government that is no longer in office, those projects, when they are completed, do not just go to benefit officials of that previous government. They remain properties of Ghana, and they improve our infrastructure stock. And once the infrastructure stock is improved, it also leads to have all been exposed by the contracts that they themselves, boreholes that they criticize, which were less than 100,000.
I thought it was
Thank
you very much. Honorable Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Honorable Al-Hassan Suhini. Thank you so much for joining us. And Nana Fredu Ajimamforiata, he is a member of the NPP communications team. This is this has been news review on Breakfast Daily. Remember to stay tuned to Breakfast Daily.
And up next, we're going to talk about the Agotime Kente Festival. I had the pleasure of, I've been to a few of the festivals, and this year, Eddie Akote.
Kente, we don't do factory.
He's the chairman. And we participated. Oh, really? We participated in it as part of Heritage Caravan earlier this year, and I learned so much. I mean, such rich culture. So you guys don't want to miss that.